1, 2, 3.
I'm Brittany and I'm a knitter based in St. Louis, and today I'm going to talk to you about what I've been up to. I was talking to a friend earlier today about like procrastinating things and not getting something done that you really wanted to do, and I told them, you know, better late than never. And then as I was driving home, I was like, okay, better late than never. Let's do a knitting podcast because it has been far too long. And I've missed being able to kind of sit down and debrief about what I've been making. So that is what this podcast is all about. Now, it's been about 4 months since I made a video, and quite frankly, to run through what I've done over like a third of a year is going to be too much to show you. And I just went back on YouTube to see what I was talking about like 4 months ago. And the good news there is all of those projects are now done, yay! And I have quite a few more that are finished kind of down here in this corner, but I don't think I'm gonna talk about all of those today. So it would just be too much. And my hope is that I'll be able to kind of touch base with everybody a bit more regularly. So we'll see how that goes. But happy 2024. I didn't do a New Year podcast. I had lots of goals and ambitions for this year, but I'm not going to talk about those either because we're already in the late end of March. So we'll just get started. Okay, so what am I wearing? This is the home sweater V-neck by Kadri. So it has this nice V-neck. It like follows the pattern of my necklace like perfectly, which is so nice to see. The yarn that I used for this is really cool. Let's see if I can put this up here so you can see. This is called Barocco Mochi in the color Vanilla. And I love it because I think it's a pretty good dupe maybe for the Noro Madura yarn that is like everywhere right now. I feel like everybody's knitting with it. Now, I don't know what the content of those are. This is, I think, 100% wool, and maybe the little nobbins are acrylic, but it's been a great sweater. I've worn it a few times in the last couple of weeks. It is oversized. It's a drop shoulder with that nice V-neck detail. I knit it a little bit too big, and I think if I were to knit it again, I would definitely go down at least a size. I know you knit part of this sweater flat and then you knit part of it in the round, and I think my gauge was just too different. And at that point, I was pretty new to making sweaters. This was a couple years ago, and I was just like, it's fine. And it really is, it's fine. I like a little bit of an oversized sweater. I'm gonna stand up for a second as I move everything around. It does have a little high-low hem here, and then some rib detailing at the bottom. The other thing that I didn't love so much about this sweater is I have a lot of extra room in my cuff. So what I end up doing is rolling. So if I were to make this again, I think I would decrease out a lot of stitches in this area, and then probably go down a few more needle sizes for the rib. I do love a good like 3/4 length sleeve. I don't love having my sleeve all the way down. In general, I'm a buncher. I like bunch to like do the things that I'm doing. So it doesn't bother me by any means. And I love the pattern. It was simple to follow. I would definitely knit it again. After I cast off, I was like, I need another one. They have Barocco Mochi in like a blue color that I think would be really pretty. And the more that I see people knitting with that Noro yarn, the more I'm like, maybe I should just invest in another sweater quantity of Barocco instead, because I do actually really like this. It is a warm sweater, but not like a crazy warm sweater. Good spring weather. And right now I have like a camisole underneath it. Can't really tell. But it keeps me a little bit less itchy because I think there's a little scratch in there for me. Okay, so that is what I'm wearing, an oldie but goodie. And I have things to show you. So I think the last time I podcasted, I was talking about the Raina Shawl by Andrea Mowry, and it is finished, and it is blocked and beautiful and wonderful. It is a brioche shawl, and there are like brioche sections and then just like normal garter sections. It has a crazy, what is this called? Hem bind off kind of thing that you're going for. That takes forever to do, but look at how pretty that is. I should take it off to show you. Just a beautiful kind of arrowhead pattern. This took me a long time to make, but I'm glad that it's in my wardrobe, particularly for the winter months. And let's see, I knit it in Andrea Mowry's original colors. So this is Brooklyn Tweed Loft yarn, which is 100% wool, I believe, in the color Wood Smoke, which is like the darker brown color. And then the lighter color is Fossil. Now I have not gotten anywhere out of this. This has not gone, actually I take that back. I wore it to like a craft night at one of our local yarn shops, and nobody said anything. It was like, oh, I made this. But it is a really pretty pattern. And I had never knit with Brooklyn Tweed before. It's actually not my favorite yarn, but I bought it in Ann Arbor at Spun Yarn, and it was kind of an impulse purchase. I love the shawl and I wanted to make it, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna buy the yarn that the pattern designer used. And then when I was squishing it, I was like, oh, that doesn't speak to me. But I was like, we'll see, maybe it'll soften up with wear. And I haven't worn it, so I can't tell you that. But after blocking it, it feels the same. So we'll see once I wear that a little bit more, how much I end up loving that yarn. Which is funny that I'm talking about that yarn, because I had more yarn in stash. Let me look around here for a second. And it was that same yarn, Brooklyn Tweed, and I made a hat, a Harlow hat, that now I cannot find for the life of me, with that yarn, and it was in cast iron and soot, and it was also an Andrea Mowry, here it is, Andrea Mowry pattern, the Harlow hat. And I really love the decreases at the crown of the head to make this. I had not made a Harlow hat, but after watching Andrea Mowry on her channel, I was like, you know, it's time. I really like how this turned out. I'm gonna put it on for a second. I haven't worn this out of the house either. I'm not a big hat wearer in general. I can never, like, I don't know, do you squish it up a ton? Like, that looks a little weird. And then I end up pulling it down more beanie style, and you get a little bit of extra in the back. But this is really more for my husband and kids than anybody else. But I like the coloring. I like how squishy the brioche fabric ends up getting after you work with it and knit with it. So another lovely little finished object. So you could tell that at the end of 2023, I was very much in a brioche mood, which that brioche mojo fire has kind of dimmed a little bit. And I cast on a ton of garter and stockinette projects. And a little bit of lace, a little bit, but not a ton. What else? Okay, So I think last time I was talking to you about another Andrea Mowry pattern. This is the DRK Everyday Sock. And this is stash yarn, and I don't remember who made this or what colorway it is, but it's a very pretty speckled pink. The two places that I get kind of speckled pink or speckled yarn at all is from the Lemonade shop. I love their speckles. And then the other one, gosh, now I can't think of it. Of course, as you sit down to podcast, you can't think of what the names of things are. The Lemonade shop, and then I want to say Hello Lavender, but that's stitch markers that I've never purchased before. I just hear people talk about them all the time. They look beautiful. It'll come to me. And when it comes to me, or if it doesn't, I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. But anyway, I love this kind of speckled detail on socks. And I purchased a pair of clear Ugg boots on Amazon, like rain boots. And I was like, this is gonna be my dream, to have like really pretty, colorful socks inside of those clear boots. I think it's gonna be super cute. And that's on my to-do like dream wish list of what comes next, is to knit some colorwork socks, because I usually don't. I usually gravitate towards the beautiful speckles for sock patterns. But this is Andrea Mowry's DRK Everyday Socks. It's a great pattern. I've used it so many times at this point that now I'm kind of itching to try a new sock pattern, because it's time. You are gonna like shake things up, do things a little bit differently from time to time. And that's, you know, the spice of life. It'll make things more interesting for myself and for everybody else. All right, what other things to say? I have a Manhattan hat. I jumped on that bandwagon. This is Cascade 220 in the Heather's color, 2425. I've knit this pattern twice in the exact same yarn. I did each hat slightly differently. So at the end where you are kind of binding off on that crown of the head, I did it following both pattern instructions. I liked both of them pretty equally. I didn't think that I would, but the end result ended up being pretty good. With this one, I do get a little bit of a divot. And this is not, I don't think this was the 3-needle bind off. I think this is the one where you knit it, yes, you knit it inside out, and then you do this little ridge. But when I did that ridge, I think it just made it a little bit too tight, so it kind of puckers in at the crown a little bit. But it's a super long hat that then you can fold up for, I knit it so long that I can do like a fold and then another fold. So super extra warm. And this is super cute on. I made these for my boys. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So they had little Christmas pictures with Santa wearing their matching Manhattan hats, and it was super cute. I think that's a tradition that I'm just gonna keep doing. Every year so far, I've made each of them a little hat for Christmas. They're quick, you know, it's a nice little project to do. And then when they take winter photos, it's so cute that they're matching. I'm sure at some point they won't want to be matching, but right now they don't seem to care. The one thing that I will say about this pattern, and it's not the pattern's fault, it's my fault, but my increases on one side and the other are not, they don't match perfectly. And I believe those are increases and not decreases. They're close. Like if you weren't a knitter, I don't think you would notice like, oh, this line is a little bit different than this line, but I notice. So I need to work a little bit on that tensioning of like what is happening at those various increases and decreases areas, because they look pretty good, but like not exactly right. And I bought a book over Christmas that I was reading, or winter break, and I'm not gonna remember the name of that book either, but it had some tips and tricks for fixing that so that your increases and decreases match a little bit better. So I'm gonna have to go back and do a little research. I like Cascade 220 yarn. There was a time when I did not. I was like, yeah, it's fine. But now it's a good workhorse yarn for little kid projects or people that are not gonna fuss with like hand washing anything. Like, that's wonderful yarn for that. Stuffed animal toys, Cascade 220. Blanket for a baby, Cascade 220. Socks, mittens, hats, maybe not socks, but hats and mittens, Cascade 220. I guess you could do like heavyweight, bulkier, like house shoes with Cascade 220, but it's wonderful now that I have children. I'm like, oh, I understand why people use this yarn all the time. It makes a ton of sense. All right, one more finished object. I have others, but I'm gonna keep this relatively short. I'm done with my chunky dahlia, and this pattern is by Knit. I knit the size large. I am still trying to figure out what size to knit with patterns, because regardless of what they say, like the ease, like the recommended ease is, I like an oversized looking fit, but I don't always like how oversized the pattern designer thinks it should be. So when I measure, I have my bust measurement fluctuates quite a bit, but I think I'm around a 40-inch bust normally. And it is like, that is the widest part of my body. My shoulders are like broad-ish, but like I'm not like a slight shouldered person, but I'm not also like a linebacker, you know, shoulder. I was thinking about like the football players, and then I had this like image of an 80s woman with big shoulders pads, and I was like, nah, I'm not like that either. But yes, my bust measurement is my largest measurement, but it also fluctuates quite a bit. So when I measured last, I was a 44-inch bust, and then I measured again, and I was a 40-inch bust. It's changing, but I'm really not changing. Like, the scale number doesn't change. So I just think it's like water weight and the time of the month and like all of those kinds of factors play in. But because of that, I think what I end up doing is having a little bit of extra kind of in here because of that, the recommended ease. So when I do the recommended ease, it ends up being a little bit too big everywhere, which I would rather have something that is more oversized than too tight. I do not like wearing tight clothing in a knitted garment. Like, I am leggings all day, athleisure, Wonder Woman, love those things. However, with a knitted garment, I don't want to be like confined. It's not my jam, not my thing. So I always err on the side of knitting something slightly larger than slightly too small. And what I've started to realize is if it says that it's gonna be a 40-inch bust and I'm meeting gauge, I'm just gonna knit the 40-inch bust because like it will fit over here and then everywhere else it's gonna be hopefully okay. So with that being said, still figuring out exactly what I like for each kind of pattern wear designer. For this one in particular, and I'll wear this next time, I knit the size large, which is a little bit too large, but I like it. I like the oversized kind of cushy winter sweater. I knit this in Drops Air #2, which is a blown yarn of baby alpaca and merino wool. And then I knit holding it together with Drops Kid Silk in the colorway number 20. So it ends up being like this really pretty beige of like cream, but with like a little bit more of, I'm trying to figure out, a little bit more of like that brown in there. Really pretty held together. Now, I haven't worn this, I think, at all yet. The weather in St. Louis has been fluctuating a lot, and this is gonna be heavyweight right now, but I think we've had a little cold snap. Like we did our fall spring, it got up to like 70 degrees here, 80 degrees, and now it's dropped back down to like 30 in the mornings. So I feel like I could wear that, and I probably will wear that this week, and then I can let you know how that Drops yarn holds up. Okay, so those are all of the things that I'm going to talk about that are finished. I have a couple of yarn acquisitions that I've gotten over the past couple of months. And the first one is the Lemon Kid. So I have never worked with their yarn before. This is their Trio base. And the Trio base is 70 merino, 20 cashmere, 10 nylon. It's 450 yards per skein. And the colorway I got for this was taffy. So what am I planning on making with this? Well, I'm going to try making a mini mock neck tank by Jessie Made. And I'm a little worried because it's very cropped. And I'm not a cropped girly. That's not my look right now. Nor has it really ever been. I love that look on other people, just not really my thing. So I'm hoping to make it a little bit longer. And I just love this. It's like Barbie pink. It's taffy. It's just a beautiful like bubblegum color. The yarn's really pretty. It has a nice little sheen to it, a little luster. So I think it's gonna be really cute once it's all said and done. And then my other acquisition, which is part of the reason why I'm podcasting, was I wanted to do a little unboxing because I have not gotten this yarn out. And this is from Spin Cycle Yarns, which is a company based in Bellingham, Washington. I love their little package. I've ordered Spin Cycle from different companies, but never directly from them. So this was beautiful to see. And I am planning on making some Caitlin Hunter designs out of this. So I don't know if I'm gonna do, I have 3 that I've purchased. There are 3 patterns that I purchased. I have the Alpine Bloom, which I love, it's beautiful. Stacey Elstone from Stress Knits made an Alpine Bloom sweater with Spin Cycle. And I was like, oh, that's so pretty, I want that. I have a Misurina, someplace in Italy, pattern. And that I saw with the original colorway, somebody was wearing that at a craft event that I went to, a knitting event. And I just thought it was beautiful. And ever since then I was like, I wanna make one of those too, it'll be great. And then the third one is Ghost Horses. And I have a ton of Spin Cycle to make my Ghost Horses. So these other 2 skeins I think are gonna be used for maybe the Alpine Bloom, but I think you're gonna need 2 skeins for Alpine Bloom. But I did buy 2 skeins of yarn. They do not match. And I bought them thinking that I would look at my stash and see if the yarn that I had already purchased for like the main body part of the sweater, which Spin Cycle skein will look the best with it. So beautiful little paper Spin Cycle. Sorry for the crinkling. People always apologize for that, and I don't have any issues with crinkles, but sorry if that bothers you. And oh, here they are. So different vibes for sure. So I ended up getting Dyed in the Wool. And this skein, they are both 100% American wool, 200 yards, sport weight superwash. And this one is Pick Your Poison. So it looks like there is some purple and green and blue and kind of gray in there. That's really pretty. I didn't really know what to expect. I think one of the funny things about Spin Cycle is you really can't know what to expect. Like you get whatever they send you. I did a little comment in the order box that said like, hey, I'm planning on pairing this probably with like a pastel, rosy, dusty pink color. Like if you could give me something that would go with that. And I think that's really pretty. The other one that I got is Ghost Ranch. So I love when people use Ghost Ranch in projects, and all of the skeins look so different online. And I told them in my little box that I'm not a huge red or orange person. So it looks like they did a really good job making sure that I got skeins that like didn't kind of tend to the red and orange. So way to go, Spin Cycle. I'm super excited about that. I have no idea which one I will choose. Just looking at them, I'll have to hold them up with that other pink yarn that I have. So my pink yarn is from the Wandering Flock. And I bought 2 skeins of it. I purchased a skein later on and it didn't match the ones that I already owned. So I was like, oh, what do I do? So I think this was a good solution. Okay. Well, notebook report from me. I've read a lot lately, and they've all been good. Maybe I'll talk about books a little bit more next time. And no real recipe report. I've been baking a ton of macarons. That's been like my new stress hobby. Like, let's get out some anxiety and tension. Like, let's make some macarons. And it's been a lot of fun and I've really enjoyed it, but I take that back. I'll put the recipe that I've been using to make my macarons in the links down below if you are curious. It is a very fun hobby. It's very temperamental, which knitting is not temperamental. So I don't know why I enjoy both of these so much, but I really do. And it was good to talk to all of you. Hopefully I will see you all again real soon. All right, bye everyone.